What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Neek the Podcast. Yes, we are still actually a show. I am the geriatric geek samurai, the savage that wipes from back to front Kiku. And along with me, as always, is the demon sour cream, Josh Raish Al Finney. Josh, how have you been over the last 3 years since we did a show?
I have no words for you, you savage.
Hey, you called me that. I told you I was using it in the next intro.
I did.
This is your fault. You don't give me
is.
ammunition. You don't give me ammo. And, of course, our main man, Ray, Gally-Hawkmoon-Fatman-Min, iNuke-Cheek, Squeak, Williams, or as we've always loved and known him by, Jethro, Tull, Gilligan, Arthur the Fourth.
You don't know me. That's not my name.
We agreed. There's a contract.
Don't talk to me or my son ever again.
Whoa! We know drama here. Oh my god. When the hell did we become TNT?
We are lifetime right now.
This is turning into an episode of Law and Order.
Bum, 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 bum. And of course, our luscious lady locks of Lady Argonians, a man who needs no introduction, so I'm not going to give him one. And our no, I'm kidding. Nick Lealy.
Yes, sir. In the words of Lionel, hello. It's me.
Wow.
So Nick,
Sir?
you've been the luscious lady locks of Lady Argonians.
Oh yeah.
You've been Slow Silver.
Yep.
And now we have you a six head.
It's getting progressively worse and without my consent, so we're going to talk after this.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And of course, sitting next to me in the home office in the studio is one of our wonderful collaborating partners from Be Terrible Productions, Terrible Talk podcast, Jeremy G. Branch. Jeremy?
What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me and my good buddies and Neek the Podcast.
Okay, don't do that.
Wait,
you don't step over us.
No, Jeremy, you're hired.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate
We can pay you in broken compliments and poop jokes.
It's true.
Fair enough.
I'll pay you in coming on your show to talk more about J.J. Abrams and the mystery box.
Anytime, Josh. That was absolutely a pleasure. And actually, Kiku and I were able to do a really cool sketch right before we got started with this recording. So I was like, dude, do you need a guest on your podcast? And he's like, not really, man. I kind of got a full house. And I was like, but you need a guest on your podcast.
How can
And he's
there
like,
be a full house when there's 5 of us now? A full house is 5 cards.
This
No,
is
full
true.
house.
That's a really good point.
And a full house is the Olsen twins, and we don't have them.
This is Fuller House, though. So
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever
It's the
happened to
reboot.
familiarity?
It's the reboot. It's Fuller House.
So if we were going to lay it out right now, cast members, guys, who is the cast members of Full House? I'm calling Uncle Jesse right
I'm
now.
Candace Cameron Blue.
I'm not in
Nah.
the show because there are no black people.
Ray. Well, that's not technically that's not true. You're John Stamos.
Ooh.
Not
High
even.
praise. High praise.
No?
Not even.
I would be Bob Saget,
Nice.
the guy who tells awfully dirty jokes behind the scenes.
He does.
And then Josh would be Stephanie Taylor.
No, I'm definitely Kimmy, aren't I? I got to be Kimmy, don't I?
The neighbor.
If we're talking about Fuller House, I like to think that I'm the guy at Netflix who got this greenlit purely because he wanted to make a bunch of money.
I like how he had.
Idiots.
I like how he there you go. There it is. There it is. There it is. Episode 61, where we make fun of Josh the entire episode.
This is
Stay tuned for
61.
that.
This is 60.
No, we're gonna plan it for the next
Yeah,
episode.
it's like it's an episode we have to
Executive.
plan it in advance. Yes, yes. Mr. Moneybags.
Even better, episode 61, the roast of Josh Finney. We'll get Ann Coulter, and
Peyton
then we'll
Manning.
get Betty White as well, and Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Yep.
The sports ball player, right?
I mean, well, no, that's the episode we have John Boyega on. That'll be great.
Oh yeah, that'd be fantastic.
No, Betty White's not a sports player.
Oh,
What?
I was
That's
really
not-
confused.
That's not true, dude. She admits
Guys,
to
do we
playing with a
actually
lot
have
of
a
balls.
show?
This is the show.
This is the show, Josh.
I'm gonna cut you. I'm gonna cut you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
You put that toenail cutter away.
A toenail cutter.
Yeah, it's for Howard Hughes. That's what he cut his
Now
toenails
you
with.
showed me your hand. Now I know.
The flaming garbage truck is back.
It is back, and I love it.
I mean,
Back like Passion of the
that's
Christ
taken.
2.
We can't use that. We're more like a flaming like sewage line. It's different.
We're a flaming
smart car.
gondola.
A flaming gondola. That was my first band, actually.
Oh my.
I thought your first
Alright,
band was
Andy Dwyer.
Flaming Banana Hammock.
We changed the
God.
name, remember?
What
yeah.
are we even talking about anymore?
Well, the first news
Banana
item up,
hammocks.
the first news item up for bid. More Final Fantasy 15 information, as Hajime Tabata was given an interview by Famitsu, and he talked about the construction of the game, how it was laid out. The first half of the game will be open world, like we've all come to expect, but the last half of the game will be strictly linear, basically making it your high school year, senior year, right, where you had a lot of fun the first couple of years, and then your parents said, no, you're messing up, now you got to focus on graduation.
Mine was the opposite of that. So
You live a charmed life, Josh. We get that. We
I
know.
do. Thank you.
You live with Alyssa
That's another
Milano
show I'll never
and
watch.
Shannon Doherty and muscly guys who are witches. Ray, as the other Final Fantasy person in the room, what do you think of how they're structuring the game?
So when I first read this, I laughed because I'm like, of course this is the way that this happens. This is Final Fantasy 15. Duh. I've only been waiting for this for like half my life, it feels like. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, this definitely sounds like a game that's getting rushed out of production now because they've been taking way too long. They're running out of money because that's a thing that happens. And I'm like, well, either they'll focus and then we'll get a really, really, really concentrated version of Final Fantasy towards the end of the game, which will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it'll be too jarring when I'm playing this big open world and all of a sudden I'm shoved down one hallway for the rest of the game. I don't know. I mean, I won't know until I play it. So I tell you what, I'm not pre-ordering it. I'm going to wait until after it's been out for a while, and then I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
What do you think about maybe the fact that it's a possible rush to get Tabata to work on Kingdom Hearts 3 finally, since he is director of both of them?
Well, since both of these games are probably almost never going to come out,
Right?
they want to make sure that at least one of them is halfway out, and then they'll update it later and put out the rest of it with DLC.
That seems to be modern gaming. Josh.
I took actually really big offense to it when I found out about that. Offense is the wrong word. I had a big problem with it when they said that it was going to be open world the first half and then linear the second half. I do think it's going to be a jarring change. I really think that it would have benefited from having the open world the whole time. I can understand the last mission being linear.
Right.
But suddenly changing half the campaign to be linear, it's which one were they trying to do more? Was the whole game supposed to be open world, and then Square's just like, nope, screw it, we need to put it out. We've had this in production for way too long, or what? I canceled my pre-order. I had a pre-order. Went ahead and canceled that the other day because I have zero faith in this game anymore.
Wow.
Considering the game was originally announced when I was in junior high, I have no faith in it anymore. I don't care. Seeing Kingsglaive the other night definitely made that even worse, considering that was supposed to be the opening for the game. I'm done.
And the plot wasn't all that you thought it was going to be, huh? Because all the visuals are phenomenal.
Nothing is what I thought it would be, but that's beside the point. I might get to this next year.
I think it's funny that, typically in role-playing games, especially Final Fantasy, you do start off kind of on a linear path, but as you progress in the game, it opens up more and more until you're at the end of it, or even halfway through, and then you can go everywhere. Nick, you love Final Fantasy almost as much as us.
I'm kind of with Josh because it's sad how these AAA games they're dropping huge pieces of information about their games so close to the deadline. Like they did it with No Man's Sky, where people were starting to play it. They're like, wait, there's no multiplayer at all, and we kind of thought that was going to be a thing, Right. Or with Destiny a while back, where people were like, when can we fly our fucking ship,
Never.
And so now, never. And so these are huge games, man. And like with Final Fantasy, we're 2 months out, and they're like, by the way, here's linear. When people thought this is a huge world with that awesome car where you're going to be able to just drive wherever you want, get to the story whenever you want. It's bigger than Skyrim. It's bigger than The Witcher. It's bigger than GTA. So hearing that's disappointing. And like these AAA games are doing this more and more. Maybe it's just me, but that's honestly how I feel about it. And it's like it's like depressing. And so I am kind of with Josh on that. Like I haven't lost all my faith in it, but I'm just kind of like this sucks that what are they doing? I don't understand.
Well, Nick, I'm glad you brought up those games. because those are games that are typically full open world, right? You can go anywhere, you can do anything, and with Square changing the combat style to much more action than we've ever seen before in a Final Fantasy game, you would think that they would stick to the open world, correct?
Right. Right.
So I mean, why do you think that happened?
I don't know. I mean, they definitely have the capability to make an open world game. You know, I don't know why they would. A lot of people, that the first frustration was with 13, where it was, everybody thought we're going to go and do what we want, but it was linear till like chapter 13. Then you got to that big open plateau where you got to do the hunts, and people were, kind of disillusioned by that point. They're like, we don't care anymore. I didn't. I was like, I don't even want to do this. I've been on like race at a hallway the entire game. So I honestly don't know the reasoning behind it. Like, if you want to keep people on track, you can always give them quest markers. Just let them. People want to do their own thing now. Sandbox games are the biggest thing. People want to, they want to go and do what they want in a game. So
Ray, do you think that they should have followed a more modern approach? Something like what Bethesda's been doing, and what BioWare has done, where it's much more open world for modern gaming, since gamers want to do whatever they want to do in the games that they play.
I don't know. I feel like this game has been on the stove for 10 years. And so I'm sure this game has been like maybe 5 or 6 different games at some point in development.
Right.
I just wish that they had picked a story and told it, and then like built the Final Fantasy that we all know and love around it. And I'm sure whatever it was going to be would have been fine. So I don't think they would need to conform to a Skyrim or something like that. They should have just done Final Fantasy, and they would have been fine.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off that real quickly. A kind of combination of that and what you mentioned earlier, Kiku, about doing DLC, that we'll get the rest of it DLC. That's probably my biggest concern about this. There's no reason with all these delays that there ever should have been a season pass for this game.
Right.
Yeah.
I fully believe after a game's been in development for 10 years, all the content should be in there. Of course, we know companies will never do that. They want to get even more money out of you. But then the fact that the collector's editions and the special limited edition don't even include that season pass, that is a direct that is Square Enix spitting in the
slap
face.
in the face.
Fans.
Yeah.
They're hawking a loogie in your face because they just don't care anymore. They know that you'll buy it because it says Final Fantasy. And I think that actually almost speaks more volumes to me than the last-second delay. This game was probably a week or two away from getting ready to go gold, and it got delayed. So there's clearly been problems since E3 or before, and they just didn't want to say anything. It's coming out after Thanksgiving, and who knows?
They pulled an R. Kelly on all their fans. That's what I like to say.
Wow.
Well, I wanted to throw a question to all of you guys. As somebody who's not as savvy in the world of video games, would you prefer, if you had either or, would you prefer that it was open world at the beginning and then linear, or would you prefer that it was linear and then open world towards the end of the game?
Well, 13, as Nick said, was linear to begin with, and it got boring real fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I stuck with it till you got to Cocoon when it was open world, and that was the most fun of that game was Cocoon, and it was actually like eons above whatever else was in that game. The problem is how long are you going to take to get to that open world?
Sure.
The flip side of that coin, though, is you're having all this fun in the open world, and then you're like, oh, I'll go finish the story. I'll come back to some of this other stuff later, and then you can't. You're just cut off.
Locked in.
And for them saying it's half of the game, like, it's understandable if it's the last chapter or two. Like, okay, cool, we're getting to the end game. Let's focus. Let's finish it. That's what I want to do. But Skyrim, like we brought up, or even Fallout 4, you get locked into those final few missions when you choose to, but they ask you, do you want to continue? You can't go back if you do. But for half the game being stuck on one path, that's kind of, I don't know.
Makes sense.
Like, why would I want to leave the open world then, where I can do anything I want to do?
Absolutely.
Especially when you're broadcasting the fact that you have a car. This is the first Final Fantasy that's been modernized like that.
Right.
You have a car, you and your companions. It's like 4 guys. It's Noctis and his friends, and you travel the countryside. And it's like, that's cool. I can, venture off for a couple hours.
So and that car flies.
It does.
My ideal division for a game would be how the Zelda games have really handled it since, well, they went 3D.
Absolutely.
It starts out linear at the beginning, and then you get to explore Hyrule or the Great Seas or wherever the game takes place, and then it gets linear again for the final dungeon.
That's a great idea.
I really appreciate that. And I've said a lot of times that Wind Waker is one of my favorite games ever, and I think it's a lot because of that structure. You could sail, or you could just fast travel everywhere if you wanted to. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths. Obviously, that's not an RPG, but I think that's the ideal way to handle something like this.
Well, that's how the old Final Fantasies worked. You were pretty much linear, and then you opened the world up as you went along, and then got linear again towards the end game.
It was like linear for the sake of a tutorial, basically. Like, okay,
right.
Well, I mean, it's like they teach you what the game is first, and then they open up the overworld. It wasn't even it's not even open world. It didn't even have to be open world. They just give you a space outside of the dungeons, and then you have some room to play and learn and grow inside the game.
And give you a long ranch.
And I honestly, I would take those games either way. I'd rather have it open in the beginning, linear in the end, or the opposite, as long as it's done well. That's all that matters to me. If there is purpose to it, I'm so okay with that. But if you're just doing it because, like, all of a sudden, well, crap, we don't have as much time as we did before, then I've got a problem with it. Because if they're taking it from open world and then they're making it more linear to make it more cinematic, and we get some really awesome, badass cinematics, I'm okay with that. Because that's why I used to play JRPGs. You do a whole bunch of awesome stuff, you get an amazing cutscene, and then you do it all over again to get to the next one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if that's something like what's happening, I'm okay with it, but I don't know. I don't even know if it's good. So
nobody does.
Exactly.
But let's get into some cool news. Let's get into some rumor news for the DC universe. I got two little news bits for you guys. Actually, these are cool. Nothing to actually crap talk. Ben Affleck, Ben the Man, one of Josh's favorite filmmakers, released a video of one of our favorite recent DC villains, Deathstroke. Looking shiny like a new Lamborghini. Possibly, the rumor says that he will be the next villain in the solo Batman film, with possibly him showing up in Justice League.
I mean, they need a better villain to show up in Justice League, so I understand.
That's the only way that I understand him appearing in Justice League, truthfully, is like a cameo appearance or something, or maybe him unmasked. Like, maybe do it like Avenger style, like Batman's fighting him in the beginning, Batman and Wonder Woman or something, and he gets arrested. Just like, the Captain America villains usually have somebody small.
Villains die in this new DC universe, sir.
Unless they're going to be using Suicide Squad. Just saying.
Haven't seen it. Don't know what you're talking about.
I think that there's definitely a way to put him in Justice League, and that's what the initial rumor said. And then the Wrap reported within an hour or two of the Justice League rumors that no, they have sources high up in DC that have worked with Ben Affleck, are working on the Batman movie, and say no, he is in the Batman movie. And to me, that makes so much more sense.
Yes.
I think that actually opens up the door for bigger storytelling. You could possibly bring in Green Arrow that way. He's very well ingrained in those. Maybe have Oliver Queen show up for a little bit, but that would be a way to organically bring him in without doing a solo movie. I don't know if they would ever do that. That's just one route you could go. He is a Teen Titans villain. That's how he was introduced.
That's what I'm saying. He is an original Teen Titans villain, and they've taken him, and he is now like the most versatile DC villain ever.
Yes.
Right.
So this means, like, personally, I'd love to see the Titans get together and fight him. Introduce Dick Grayson, bring in Wally West, have an Cyborg. Have all of them fighting him. Give me Beast Boy. Like, I'd be so excited for some of this.
Raven,
we had the rumors about the Titan show a long time ago, and it fell apart. If one of those 3 unannounced titled movies is Titans, I would lose my shit. That would be amazing to see.
It would be officially my most anticipated DC thing.
I mean, you already have Flash and Cyborg showing up together in the Flash movie. I think if you just tease Deathstroke in one of these, and then he's a major player in Batman, that's awesome. Because he's a mercenary. He can literally work for anybody.
So I was talking to Chris earlier, and I really don't have a lot to contribute to these conversations. Unfortunately, I'm not the guy who reads a lot of DC comics. I don't play a lot of games. I'm a movie guy. But I asked Chris, and I kind of want to turn it over to you guys, is Deadshot a little too close to Deathstroke in this DC cinematic universe, or can they differentiate the characters enough?
Yeah, they've differentiated them enough. I mean, one of them is already Will Smith.
Yeah.
He's more of the like less serious, more like I can be serious when I need to, but I'm more of the jokey lead character type guy. Well, Deathstroke will just be the I'm here to whoop everybody's ass and probably kill a few people.
And that's true to the lore of the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. Well, now anyway.
So Deathstroke is, they're both mercenaries. Deadshot is known as basically the greatest marksman who ever lived.
Yes,
in that universe.
Shoot anybody from anywhere.
He's like a villainous Hawkeye almost.
Sure.
Whereas Deathstroke is the world's greatest mercenary.
Okay.
He doesn't just use guns. He uses swords, knives, MMA style fighting. He's a very versatile villain. Like Ray said, he started out with Titans, and now he can go to anything.
He also beat up Spartacus.
So who would get the fade over the other one?
Manu Bennett,
Would Deadshot or Deathstroke win in a melee battle?
Oh, that was Deathstroke hands down.
Deathstroke hand down. Yeah,
it's funny because Deadshot has like they in Suicide Squad they gave him like a humanity to him. He's got his daughter. With Deathstroke, there's no there's just kill. Like
in the comics recently, there's more. They humanize him just a little bit more.
Yes, and I'm really digging the Rebirth story from him.
The Rebirth story from him is good. Christopher Priest is killing it.
We also got one of the best characters of all time from him. So
now I have a question for Jeremy. Actually, Jeremy, you're a film aficionado like Kiku and myself. Who, given the information you've just gotten, who would you ideally want to see as a just ruthless assassin in Deathstroke? Now you got me saying Deadshot.
Yeah, right. Well, dude, that is such a great question. There's a couple people that immediately come to mind just because in my mind they're kind of like go-to casting people right now. I love Dan Stevens. After seeing him in The Guest, I think he could be an intimidating villain. Maybe he doesn't have the physical stature to pull it off. I think if you were going to go in a different direction, there's so many viable candidates. Jason Statham may be cool in the role. He's a pretty big name. And then if you wanted to go in a totally different direction, maybe Michael Jai White. There's all sorts of options. Okay. Is that for the win? Yeah. That was a good one?
That's a great one. I like that. It's a wild card.
That begs the question, though. Do you think they're going to go old Deathstroke or they want to go young Deathstroke?
They're going to go Arrow Deathstroke.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. If we win, like Ray just said, they're going to go Arrow Deathstroke. I don't know if anybody's going to do it as well as Manu Bennett did.
Yeah.
That really bothers me, actually, that they won't bring him on for that.
That's the guy. That's the one.
The ideal casting I would have, actually, his name's been thrown around for Cable a lot, but I see him as much more of Deathstroke, especially after seeing Avatar and then Stephen Lang. He looks like Slade Wilson.
Give him an eye patch. Perfect.
I would be all over that. The dude is so ripped.
Yeah.
He is petitioning hard for Cable right now, but if he didn't get that, I bet he'd be a great.
Even if they had flashbacks and they made Stephen Lang wintergreen, I would be fine with that.
Dude, I seriously think Stephen Lang would be the perfect Deathstroke. When I think Deathstroke, and then when you read, some of the more recent arcs he's been in, the ones they're drawing from the newer comics in a lot of these.
Yeah, sure.
I think he would be a perfect casting, and because I think he would be able to convey a relationship with Rose, his daughter, excellent.
Yeah.
Right.
What about Joe Manganiello?
Joe Tortellini has come back on episode 60.
Yes, him, that guy. What about this guy though?
He was rumored to have been cast.
Because dude, he's ripped. He's got the face. He's got the hair.
Well, that's the thing. Remember, we talked about this when we first started Neek, and we were concerned that he looked a little bit too much like Manu Bennett.
That's what they want, though. They want Manu Bennett without Manu Bennett.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it now,
Squad.
He was as Deathstroke. That was the rumor.
Yeah.
But I think enough time now has passed between Manu Bennett's portrayal that Joe Manganiello would be great for it. I mean, him or Stephen Lang, I'd be good. Or if DC really wanted to mess with people, make Stephen Amell Deathstroke, because that would be hilarious.
Yeah,
people would shit in this theater. Yeah.
One last thing before we move on. The only casting rumor that has me really concerned is there was one that cropped up in the months leading up to Suicide Squad that was Scott Eastwood's role in the movie.
Oh no.
If he were to be Deathstroke, I think that'd be about the only thing that would turn me off from it.
That'd be cringe. That'd be absolute cringe.
Hey, Matt Damon, Deathstroke.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Well, moving on to some more DC news. This is just a rumor, I swear to God, but it is rumored that Zack Snyder himself has opted out of directing Justice League Part 2 and Man of Steel 2. By opted, me and Ray both agree that there was a gun held to his head and said, "Get out. Get the fuck out now."
And that gun is being held by Jeff Johns.
Right.
Yep, it was like, you're costing us way too much money. If you make another movie, people will not come see it. It will be a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes. I was gonna say they're holding the gun too. Like, we can't afford another bad rating.
We can't have any more Rotten Tomatoes in this
We
house.
own Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
So, I think from my perspective, even if the ratings weren't all as bad as they were, I think this still, if this is true, obviously, this still would have happened. It sounds like he has a case of weedinitis where he just wants out, to go do his own stuff. It even said he wanted to do a smaller scale project, which for Zack Snyder is almost Michael Bay territory, which doesn't make sense.
It's
But
called
still,
retiring.
Oh, so
Yeah.
he's going to go do Transformers after Bay is done.
Sufferplex
Yeah.
too.
you still, it would be like the same thing. You would never notice that
The
anybody
Elves
changed.
of Gahul 2.
Pain and
Oh,
gain.
he's going to go do the Dragon Ball Z movie, guys. Now I know.
Oh, pain in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think this rumor is true?
I don't know, but it would be. It's one of those things where you can't. He shouldn't do another one. He shouldn't.
I mean, here's my thing. When Justice League comes out, he will have directed 3 of the 5 movies out so far. He's an EP on the other 2. And he's supposed to be a producer for basically everything up to Justice League 2. That concerns me because that goes farther than Marvel ever did with Whedon.
Joss Whedon, right?
It goes farther than Whedon. Whedon was more of a proven... I don't want to say more of a proven talent. That's kind of wrong.
No, it's not.
When it comes to movies, it is. Because I think that Zack Snyder, he's been really hit and miss his entire career up until Man of Steel. In fact, watching the last 2 DC movies has made me appreciate Man of Steel a lot more than I did when it came out.
Thank you.
But I'm also a massive, massive Watchmen apologist. I didn't just like it when I was 16 and think it was the best thing ever. I still legitimately think that's a really, really visually well done movie. If nothing else, keep Zack Snyder's cinematographers and stunt coordinators because they're awesome at their jobs.
Yep.
He's an
Actually,
adaptation.
Josh Finney, the movie buff that I had respect for until episode 61 of the podcast. Talking about Zack Snyder. Thank you, Josh. I think we're done here.
I don't even know what just happened.
You want to know what just happened? My love for Jeremy just grew from this to this.
We were
Did you ever
waiting
have
the
to
roast
resize
of
us this day?
You told me you wouldn't tell anyone.
Josh is a fellow film buff. I really I read his posts on Facebook, and I do.
They're very good. No, they're very good.
I got a lot of respect for the gentleman as a film fan, and I'm actually surprised, Josh, to hear that you are an apologist of the Watchmen. Is it visually that is what draws you in? Did you like the storytelling?
So, I'll keep this extremely brief. Watchmen is a very visually well done film. I think it's a beautiful film. The opening montage is the best opening montage to a movie I've ever seen.
Awesome.
When Bob Dylan is going, I think it was, for the most part, very faithful to the graphic novel. A lot of the panels from it, just like 300, are pulled directly from the page.
Absolutely.
And that intrigues me a lot, but that's why I was so excited that he was going to do Man of Steel. And then after I saw Man of Steel, I was like, oh, okay, that was okay. When I heard he was going to do Batman vs. Superman, I was like, I'm not a big fan of a movie called Batman vs. Superman, but then I remember that he did Watchmen, and I got really excited. Now I'm just like, God, get him out of here. I'm done. I'm throwing my arms up. I'm going to throw my scotch if I throw my other arm up, but I'm done.
And I do
think
not mean
he's-
that. Nothing but respect, sir, obviously.
Maybe with the adaptations, he's an adaptation director. Watchmen, Sin City,
Good
300. directly off the pages, he's great at showing it on screen what you imagine or you saw it on the pages of the graphic novel.
Right.
When it comes to creating his own thing, it kind of gets lost.
And I think it's healthy for a universe to get a new perspective in there. It looks like every movie, even Wonder Woman, shares a lot of similarities to Zack Snyder choreography.
Mm-hmm.
And these movies need to have a different feel. I mean, yes, Marvel has a formula that they follow, but each of their directors puts their own footprint in that universe. And that is respected by the other filmmakers.
Yeah.
I also think, though, that, and, someone can scream out blasphemy all they want, but I've actually liked what the Russos have been doing as the new caretakers of the Marvel Universe, almost a little more than Whedon. I'm still extremely excited for what they're bringing to the table, and even more excited for Infinity War, and a movie that is no longer known as Infinity War, but still is Infinity War.
The artist formerly known as Infinity War.
I mean, I told you that when I got into seeing Civil War early, when we talked on the phone that night, I said, I think that the Russos are going to be the perfect caretakers of this universe, and I got, I had 2 quality movies from them within a 2.5-year span. Whereas with Whedon, I was like, oh, Avengers was amazing, and I was so excited for Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron is still a fun movie, but it did not match that original Avengers feeling. This Civil War managed to surpass, in my mind, the fun of the Avengers movies.
Agreed.
The first one, obviously, nostalgic reasons, but it told a better story. It juggled every character equally, while still introducing a new character, giving a new dimension to literally a new dimension to Ant-Man.
Absolutely.
Giving a lot more to the Falcon, and building on the work they did with Winter Soldier. I was like, there's nobody else, not even Whedon could beg for his life to come back and do Infinity War, and I wouldn't want him to now.
Right.
So
that begs the question.
I want DC to find that person. I think Patty Jenkins could be that person for them.
Well, she is rumored to be picking up one of those projects, so...
I hope so. What we've seen of Wonder Woman is very promising, but that's something that DC is very adept at. And this isn't me trying to take a shot at them. Whoever edits their trailers needs to edit their movies, because that production house is doing God's work right now.
That's right.
That's a Kiku tweet, live and in person. Something me and Josh have talked about.
So, gentlemen, the question is, who should direct Justice League if he does step down? Who should it be?
Patty Jenkins.
What are your thoughts?
Patty Jenkins. If she's
Ben
already in the
Affleck.
universe, or Ben Affleck, yep.
Why the fuck are y'all saying Patty Jenkins?
Because she's a great director.
What has she done, though?
She's done Game of Thrones.
It's the fact that she is from Game of Thrones.
And that's the thing is that Game of Thrones is such a detailed ensemble piece. To have her directing a huge ensemble piece film would be perfect.
I want to remember what happened the last time we praised a director from Game of Thrones. When she dropped Thor, Alan Taylor stepped in, who has done some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Alan Taylor stepped in to do it, and it was terrible. He did Terminator Genesis, and it was terrible. Some people are only suited for TV, and really Wonder Woman is going to be the test of this. But, we've long said it, Wonder Woman is really the test to know, is it a universe and a studio problem, or is it Zack Snyder? And this is the one he's had the least meddling in. If this goes off without a hitch, and if it is the best one, like we all think it's going to be, I think all 4 of us can confidently say that. Then
5.
All 5 of us, I think, can confidently say that. If this is done well, I think Patty Jenkins should be rewarded with that. Like, I was still a believer until Joss Whedon was not that Jon Favreau should have done the Avengers. I think in some ways he should have done Age of Ultron. Favreau proved himself to me, and he continues to prove himself by being an advisor, being an architect of this universe, second only to Kevin Feige. Mm-hmm. So get somebody in there that can instill confidence. He wasn't a well-known director before. He did fucking Elf before he did Iron Man.
Right.
I mean, James Gunn did Super and Slither, and these guys, the Russos never did a film before. They had only done Community and Arrested Development. I mean, you can't tell me these guys were well-known. So I guess me saying Patty Jenkins is that I have that much faith in her.
That makes a lot of sense hearing you guys say that. Absolutely. Nick, to answer your question very, very briefly, give it to Ben Affleck, dude.
Yeah. What if, in a twisted turn of events, the doors opened, mist came pouring in, and Christopher Nolan walked in again?
It will never happen.
No.
And I would say no.
Not even Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens could get him to do another DC movie.
Well,
You
not
don't
only
think so?
that, but not only that, and I'm not saying this because I don't think he's a great director, but I think superhero type stuff is out of his wheelhouse, and it's something he's not. Yeah, and it's not something he would be interested in, which is why in the Dark Knight trilogy we didn't get any superhuman individuals. He wants to be
He's
way
very
more
grounded and down to earth.
There's a reason why the Dark Knight trilogy is not considered a superhero film by myself and a lot of other film aficionados. That it's a Bruce Wayne story. So
it's a crime movie wrapped up in a Batman hood.
I got one for you right out of center field though, that you guys will never guess. Yes. Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, give it up.
Oh, so it'll never get made. Okay.
Shut up. It would happen.
Plan.
Just like my Pacific Rim 2 is going to happen. You stop it.
Yeah.
No,
So,
if he was going to do anything, it was Justice League Dark, and he's blown his wad. So.
And I'm glad that you said that, because transitioning into the next news bit, Doug Liman is going to be directing Justice League Dark, which is interesting because he was supposed to be directing Gambit for Fox Studios with Channing Tatum. Now that looks like it's not happening now, even though they did hire Tatum for his pole work.
Hey,
Oh, nice.
You're done. Jeremy,
How did we-
come out of that chair. You
Jeremy,
sit in that
take
chair now.
Justice League.
pull work, guys. Come on, pull work.
Totally excited about it. Looking forward to it. Even though we know there's nothing out there, but it's the quirky side, right? Like the mystical side of things. And
God, I'm with you so much. Like, if I had to take a Justice League Dark movie or a Gambit movie, and that's coming from an X-fan.
That's
like,
true,
I
you
like
are.
X-Men movies.
I like X-Men,
Gambit.
but not Gambit by himself. Get that shit
No.
out of here. No.
Why should he be
Gambit is
leading
an
a movie?
ensemble character. I made this case a lot of times. I love Gambit. He's what
Uh-huh.
got me actually to read comics as a child. Was the character of Gambit after seeing him on the X-Men cartoon series.
Absolutely.
But I've always said he cannot handle a solo film. If he was like one of the main X-Men and the next one is alongside McAvoy and Fassbender, God, sign me up so
That'd be great.
fast.
That would be great.
They should have done an X-Force movie instead of a Gambit movie.
Yep.
No doubt.
But so the question is, how soon does Justice League Dark come out? Because we don't have a director for Justice League 2 yet. Does it take that slot?
You know what? That might actually happen.
Actually, probably sooner, because we don't have a director for Shazam, and that's supposed to come out in early 2019.
Right.
Well, forgot about that movie.
Well, the thing is I actually think that Matt Ryan is going to get either his own show or, as we've said before on the show, become very integral to Legends of Tomorrow, or one of the CW shows, right? And I think he's going to generate enough popularity to get Dark to come out sooner than I think a lot of people think it is.
You think he's actually going to play Constantine?
No, that's never going to happen. Even though I don't know who else would be a perfect Constantine, because you look at Matt Ryan, you hear him talk, and you're like, that's the fucking Hellblazer.
Talk about what a redemption story for him to actually come out of the ashes like that, get the Justice League Dark going, and then they recast him. Like, that's just a kick in the balls.
Well, he is doing the voiceover for the new Justice League Dark movie that is coming out, which is cool. So I think maybe 2018, early 2019, we see Justice League Dark for sure.
Well, you'd have to think about that, because that would bring a hell of a lot of backlash. You got one guy from the TV shows coming into the movies all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's going to be another Barry Allen.
I was about to say, ask Ezra Miller about that one, dude.
You mean Peter Parker Flash? Yeah. We sent him a letter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty adamant that Matt Ryan, unless it's a divine act of God or Jeff Johns, will not be in Justice League Dark. But if there was anybody from the TV series, from the TV universe that was going to cross over at this stage, I think it would be him, because Constantine is not cast.
Right.
Flash was cast, before the end of the first season, even, I think, or at the end of the first season.
Yeah, something like that.
So, I mean, it would be a cool way to introduce the multiverse if they were to do that. But I can't see them doing it just because they've told Stephen Amell, they've told Grant Gustin they can't do it. I mean, that would rule Manu Bennett out as being Deathstroke. I don't know who you get to play him, though. That's going to be the trickiest part.
Is that a sitting
From a
rule with
branding-
them?
It
Like,
is. It is.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Like
is.
across
Yeah.
the board.
There's one name I'm going to throw out there, actually. As a guy who's
Matt Damon.
No, I've been binging a shitload of Game of Thrones. The actor who plays Jaime Lannister, Nikolai Coster-Waldau,
Sure.
I think would be a fantastic Constantine. The way he carries himself, especially in the early seasons, I think he could pull it off.
So, Josh, just out of curiosity, man, because of branding and because of just general American audiences, they're not going to call this movie Justice League Dark, right? They're going to have to give it some other bullshit title that implies that it's a DC property, but they don't want to confuse people with the whole Batman, Superman thing, so they're going to
I
call
would
it
actually
something else,
guarantee
right?
you it's going to be called Justice League Dark.
Yep.
Or Justice
Yeah.
League
100%.
Next.
Yep.
Interesting.
They don't care about confusing audiences.
No, they don't. And, I mean, even Marvel's even shown that. You know, by keeping the name Captain America Civil War, people are like, well, wait, this is an Avengers movie. And it's not called Avengers Civil War, like some of us thought it would be renamed in the 11th hour. It was Captain America Civil War. People are still like, did you go see Avengers Civil War? No one calls it Captain America. Come on.
Remember,
This can be known as the one with Swamp Thing and Constantine.
They just called a Joker movie Batman: The Killing Joke, not The Killing Joke.
Batman. Yep.
Yeah.
So then sticking that Justice League title on, it's actually going to increase ticket sales. It's not going to confuse audiences.
They're just,
Depending on Justice League does, yes.
Good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Like if they just would have called it Dawn of Justice, they wouldn't have gotten nearly as much than when they called it Batman versus Superman.
Good point.
Dawn of
For the
Justice.
5 minutes that happened.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the
Batman versus Martha. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'm
really,
gonna move
it was
us on.
Martha versus Martha.
Yeah, pretty much. And Justice League will actually be Thomas versus Thomas. Thomas Wayne, Thomas Curry.
No.
But moving on to the last news item, and it's a bit of sad news. Usually we do this at the beginning of the show, but this week, Gene Wilder, fabulous comedian, pioneer of comedy, really passed away at the age of 83. Most notably known for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Most people know him from that, but for myself, knowing him from all the Mel Brooks comedies of the 70s, and all the stuff he did with Richard Pryor, See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
That's my favorite stuff.
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles, which was Mel Brooks. And this one actually, for me, hurt a little bit. I've always felt Gene Wilder for modern comedy is not brought up enough in actually like the way modern comedy is right now. He was one of the first people to do, almost gross out comedy, the first to do over reactions, exaggerations on screen, and I will miss him and just his presence. So I don't know, you guys, any thoughts on Gene Wilder and his passing?
It's sad, like any other. 2016's been kind of a beast.
Yes, it has.
Go ahead, Ray.
It's sad, and he was one of the ones that I was like, wow, yeah, dude did a lot of amazing stuff. Not like just kind of like weird, mediocre stuff here and there. All of his stuff was great,
Right.
at least to me anyway. So
I don't want to be that bandwagon guy. You know how when somebody dies in Hollywood, all of a sudden everybody becomes a great fan of this person, whether it's Anna Nicole Smith, not to throw her under the bus, but every time somebody dies, they essentially become an icon. But Gene Wilder was one of these people who, he captured the imagination and the minds of people of my generation, people before my generation. Like Kiku mentioned Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and that movie, it just molded the values and the way that so many people view the world and view children's movies or family movies or any of that kind of stuff. And then you go 180 degrees the opposite direction and you look at something like Blazing Saddles, which was a trailblazing movie. It was the first time that we ever saw cowboys and hicks portrayed as idiots. They were bigots, and the way that they used the N-word in that movie was super effective because it helped tell that story. And I think just from one end of the spectrum to the other, Gene Wilder is one of those talents that I don't think he'll ever fully be appreciated for the person that he was and for the impression that he made on at least my life. So that's all I have to say about that.
I think he was a very cerebral comic too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I was, when you watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, a lot of the jokes and the things he's saying, they're cute for kids and it's a kids movie, but when you listen to lyrics, like when they're on the chocolate river going down to the fires of hell and depression of what he's going through, and it's just going over the kids' heads. They're just laughing, and he's talking about pure imagination. There's some fun stuff, but you could see he's in his own mind, just talking his life. And that's one thing, I love. I mean, talk to Kiku. We're big Step Brothers fans. We love the slapstick,
Yep.
We love it. When it's just like right out there, ridiculous. But then you have to say something for these comics like Gene Wilder, who it was an art form to them. And it'll last because it's so brilliant.
For me, Wilder was the beginning for Ferrell and John C. Reilly for stuff like that. I mean, you can see where the influence is. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I've always maintained that I don't really like comedy movies, at least. I think that a lot of them are just cheap ploys to try and get you to laugh, and I believe if you need, like, dirty humor or, crude jokes, you're not really that funny of a person. You just know what'll elicit a temporary reaction. For me, Gene Wilder was one of those people, though, like, his comedy lingers with you, and especially given all his work with Mel Brooks, like, when the day comes that Mel Brooks passes, he's in his 90s now, that'll be an incredibly sad day, I think, because for me, Wilder and Brooks, they're the duo. That is my basis for comedy. That is my basis for what I find influential, funny. They really were the two architects of what no matter what form of comedy you have now, like if you're a stand-up comic, if you're doing comedy in movies, like they are the architects of what you're doing in film now, whether you admit it or not. And for so many sitcom, I love sitcoms, and so many of them, you can see the direct influence from Gene Wilder. He had a very sophisticated sense of humor about him. Sometimes you didn't know exactly what he was making fun of until you saw it 2 or 3 times. And I think that's why his presence is going to be missed so much, but also because of how humble he was in his personal life. He died of Alzheimer's, for those of you who don't know. And Alzheimer's is a disease that's really close to me. Most of my family that is older and has passed away has suffered from it. And he asked his family that they not make it public until after he passed. He didn't want anybody knowing that he had Alzheimer's, and he didn't want sympathy. He didn't want anybody feeling bad for him. And so even up until the end, to me, it's like he still respected everybody else more. They said even, in his later years, after he found out he had been diagnosed with it, he would still, kids would come up to him and be like, you were Willy Wonka, and he still remembered that. He would still interact with him as if he was Willy Wonka. And that's something that's so special to me, that he never lost that about him, even when he got sick and was forgetting things. That part of him still stayed intact.
Yeah. It's weird. Just one more thought I just thought of as you said that. Like, it's interesting to see some of these comics that they'd rather you remember them for who they were, Like, hey, remember this? Like with Robin Williams, he had early onset Parkinson's, I believe, And so with him, it was like, hey, don't talk about this till after I'm gone. Remember me for who I was and the laughter we had and what I made you, when I made you laugh. And same with Gene Wilder. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the good times. And it's respectable to see that,
Well, and I think it's important that we remember in these times of tragedy, Robin Williams will always be there for us. Gene Wilder will always be there for us. I mean, they've been immortalized through film, and like what they brought into our lives is never going to disappear. So when you said remember them as they were, I mean that's what we have as an audience, and to know that we will always see Gene Wilder as Frankenstein, or we will always see Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful thing about what film does. So that's it.
Dr. Frankenstein? Frankenstein. Are you putting me on? No, it's always been Frankenstein. Do you also say Frederick? No, it's Frederick. Classic.
So good.
For those of you maybe only familiar with Gene Wilder through Willy Wonka, I implore you to go out, watch Blazing Saddles, watch Young Frankenstein, watch all the movies, the producers, watch all the movies he did with Gilda Radner. He did some stuff with John Belushi. There was actually a little comedy troupe, and it's escaping my mind right now, before he met Mel Brooks, that they did a ton of really funny stuff that was both blue humor, dirty jokes, but also was very sophisticated as well, as Josh said. And remember him for the comedian, the epic and pioneer that he was.
Absolutely.
But with that, I'm wrapping up Neek the podcast, guys. We came back, we revived it. We're going to a shorter format. We hope you enjoy it, but we're still going to keep our shout-outs. So, Nick, shout-outs for the week.
Shout out to being back on the podcast. Good times. And Jeremy, thank you for being here. I know we got to podcast at one time together, and we had a good time.
It's been a pleasure, Nick. Absolutely.
I was a guest on yours, and now you've returned the favor. So, just shout out to you guys because, yeah, it's good to be here again.
Thank you very much, man. Absolutely.
Raymond, Gally-Hawkmoon-Williams.
Shout out to Nick's forehead for being here tonight.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
No, but seriously, shout out to Nintendo for announcing a Nintendo Direct tomorrow morning for it to only be about the 3DS.
LOL. And showing us how to drop bombs in Zelda.
I'm literally gonna fly to Japan just to punch the Nintendo building.
Do you think Nintendo and Square Enix get together and they're like, how can we fuck with our customers even more?
No, I think they do it as they do it to make us matter because they're like, who can do the most fucking? Can Nintendo do it or can Square Enix do it the most? It's a competition.
Only Sony can save us now.
It's a competition, is what it is.
just so you know that Nintendo messing with Ray is the only way to get him to say the F word.
Nice.
So that was awesome.
Yes, it is. Thanks,
Josh.
Nintendo.
Shout outs for the week.
I have no shout-outs this week.
Fair
I have
enough.
0.
Okay.
Thanks,
Josh.
Josh.
Josh landed a goose egg on them shout outs. That's almost as big as Nick's 6 head. Anyway, my shout outs for the week.
Without his consent.
Without his consent.
Jeremy, do you have any room for another podcaster on your podcast?
Anytime, sir.
Anytime. My shout-outs for the week. Guy sitting next to me, Jeremy G. Branch, thank you for joining us here on the show, helping me out with some of my videos as well. Really appreciate that as always, my friend.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the 3 other hosts of Neek the Podcast. I know it's been a while. We've all had crazy schedules. We didn't know what was going on. But we're back. We're here to revive stuff, do it the Neek way. And I had a lot of fun tonight, guys. It was like old times. And can't wait to do more with you, as always. So with that, guys, check out everything Neek the Podcast has to offer. This is the main show. Of course, Pull List, Game Break, Anime F-Bomb will be coming back within the next month. I promise you that. Also, check out all of our solo stuff. Ray's Twitch channel, Nerd Life with me, Amateur Hour with Josh Finney, Nick being the new movie screen at his local Cinemaplex 16.
I'm logging off.
Why are you laughing back there? No one's on my side. Who cares?
Y'all shut up back there. Stop laughing at Nick's forehead. That's not funny. He's my friend.
God.
And with that, guys, have an awesome week. And as always, Josh, tell them what they can do.
GTFO.
You son of a...
And keep it nerdy.